Hello students, welcome everyone. I'm Amrit and today I'm here with the second part of the chapter 1, the best Christmas present in the world. In the first part of this chapter, we saw the author finds a letter. Now let's see the part 2 and find out what was written in the letter. Now let's get started with the part 2. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. So here Jim wants to tell that he what he is experiencing right now or what he has experienced, and that was very beautiful. We were all standing to in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quite all about, as beautiful a morning as I have ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. Now, dear students, we see here how Jim wants to explain the feeling what he has experienced, and he says that the Christmas morning it was very crisp and quiet, cold and frosty, that it was so beautiful, means I had ever seen, and he says that it should be that Christmas morning should be. Dear students, we see the meaning of standing to. Standing to means here taking a position. That means before starting anything that we start doing a position. And trenches, we can see the meaning of trenches. Trenches means long deep ditches in the ground where soldier tries to hide themselves during the war. Okay, here we can see the meaning trenches. Okay, I should like to be able to tell you that we began it, but the truth I am ashamed to say is that Freeze began it. So here Jim says that he thought that they have started that, but in fact it was not them but Freeze. That means German soldiers, they had started that thing. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. So here, dear students, we see that from Freeze people, the Freeze German soldiers, they started saying that Happy Christmas, Tommy. Here, dear students, we can see the meaning of Tommy. I already had told you the meaning of Tommy. Tommy means British soldier, and Freeze are the people who are German soldier. Okay, so first of all, the German soldiers, they started coming towards them and saying that Happy Christmas. When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, Same to you, Freeze, same to you. I thought that would be that. We all did, but then suddenly one of them was up there in this grey coat and waving a white flag. Don't shoot, lads, someone shouted, and no one did. There was another Freeze up on the parapet, and another keep your heads down. I told the men. It's a trick, but it wasn't. Uh, Dear students, first see the meaning of parapet. Here the word parapet. My dear students, parapet means a high wall just near the trenches so that they can stand there and see the opposite soldiers what they are doing and not. So that is called a parapet. So here Jim says that means these freeze German soldiers, they have waved a white flag and they want to make a peace. And it was unbelievable. He says that sometimes it might be their trick. So we have to be watchful. We should not just follow them. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. It was Christmas Day. Tommy, we have schnapps, we have sausage, we meet you. Yes. By this time, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. Now, dear students, we see the meaning of sunups. Here is a word sunups. So, sunup means it is a kind of German drink, okay? And sausage is your sausage. This is also eatable things, okay? So, my dear friends, now Jim is telling that they're all coming towards them with white flag and saying Happy Christmas, and they have no rifle or guns with them. They want to make peace. Little Private Morris was the first up. Here Little Private Morris means a British soldier. Come on, boys, what are we waiting for? And then there was no stopping them. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose, but the truth is that it never even occurred to me I should. All along their line and ours, I should see men walking slowly towards one another, grey coats, khaki coats, meeting in the middle, and I was one of them. I was part of this. In the middle of the war, we were making peace. Now, see, dear students, now here Jim tells that means all the French soldiers they were coming towards them, and now from our side also some often said like Morris. He said that let's guys, what are we watching for? We should also go and meet them. It's Christmas time. So all this here we can see here khaki and grey coats means grey coats the German soldiers and khaki these British soldiers. So here they are all making peace in the middle of the war. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Swiss officer who approached me and outstretched Hans Ulf, he said, gripping my hand warmly and hiding it. I am from Dusselford. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. So, dear students, we see here uh, Hans Ulf coming towards them and he wished Jim and Happy Christmas. And says here we see Hans Ulf coming to Jim and wishing Happy Christmas. And he himself introduced about himself that he is from Dusseldorf. Here you see the word Dusseldorf. Dusseldorf is a place where he belongs to. And he tells that he plays cello. He played cello. So before joining, he says that before joining the army, he was working in an orchestra and now he was playing cello. Cello is a kind of musical instrument like a violin, and so he was playing in the orchestra and he greets here Happy Christmas. Captain Jim McPherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. See here, and after he had wished him Happy Christmas, now Jim McPherson also replied and says Happy Christmas to Hans Ulf. Ah, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my room ration and his excellent sausage. And we talked Connie how we walked. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. I had learnt all the new of England from school and from reading books in English. So, my dear students, we see here that Hans Ulf is telling that Dorset means, now he's explaining and telling that I know the place called Dorset in England, and I had even enjoyed there so many beautiful snacks. Like here he says that sausage and rum. So he tells that he had enjoyed all these things in England. So now we see that all are means just engaging themselves and becoming so friendly. And even next we'll see what he says. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So, dear students, we see here that Hans Ulf says that he likes the English author Thomas Hardy. Okay, we can see here Thomas Hardy. He likes the author, and also he likes his book Far from the Madding Crowd. My dear students, this is one of the very beautiful uh, book that was written by Thomas Hardy. It is, if you have time, just you go through this, uh, and you will enjoy. Very beautiful book that he has written. Okay, let's see. So out there is no one man's land. We talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. He had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. So many students here, Jim tells that very soon means all the people, all the soldiers, German soldiers as well as British soldiers, they huddled together, they came together there, and they uh, gathered in no man's land. Here no man's land means they had the trenches both side, and now in between the land is called as a no man's land. And they started smoking, laughing, talking and drinking and eating everything and enjoying. And we see here all they gathered together, all the soldiers, and they started laughing, giggling and enjoying. Hans Ulf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. There were never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Now, so here Jim again explains that it was a kind of wonderful experience that he had in his life, a Christmas party, and says, dearest Connie, that you had sent that marzipan, a type of cake, marzipan here, a type of cake, and on that there's something Larry put that, and it's very tasty. And so he says that whatever you had given that Christmas cake, that later we sat together and we enjoyed very much with Hans Olf. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Great cords were dumped in piles to make goalposts. And the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Fizz, out in the middle of no man's land. Hans Ulf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. Now, dear friends, now here the Jim says that now within a moment they mingled and they cheered up, they clapped up, and suddenly somebody brings up comes up with a football, and suddenly there was a hustle and bustle everywhere, and they started enjoying. He saw it through and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while. I think this is how we should resolve this war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widows. So here, my dear students, here Hans Ulf says that we should resolve a war like a football match. And he says why? Because in football match no one dies, nobody dies like in the battlefield, and no children are orphaned, means nobody's father dies and so no children gets orphaned. No wives become widows. That means in a match nobody dies and so all are happy, means they enjoy everyone. So this is how Hans Ulf says that like a football match we should resolve this war. I would prefer cricket, I told him. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning probably. We laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say. So, my dear students, we see here that all the British soldiers and German soldiers together they started playing football, enjoying everywhere, and everywhere seems to be happiness prevailing. Connie Fries won 2 goals to 1, but as Hans-Ulf generously said, our goals was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. So he says that they won the match, but he says that your goal was wider than us. That means it was so beautifully that goal was made. So it is doesn't matter who won the match. The time came and all too soon when the game was finished. The schnapps and the rum and the sausages had long since run up, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. So, my dear students, here Jim wishes that the war may get end soon, and so that Hansulf had only 6 months old baby at home, so he should go back, hurry up to his home, and he can meet his family. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hansulf said. Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly, and I felt. He turned to wave just once and then became one of the huddles of grey coated men drifting back towards their trenches. And soon it was getting dark, and so all the soldiers, Britishers as well as the German soldiers, they started moving towards their trenches. Here students see the meaning dugout. Dugout means a shelter for soldiers made by digging. So they had started making that. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was still a night, silent night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of while shepherds watched. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had had a time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. So, my dear students, here Jim says that, dear Connie, I can never forget this moment what we had. Means in the war field where we supposed to fight, but in that middle of that fighting we were making peace. We were all enjoying the Christmas party. Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon. I am sure of it. So, with a very humble way, that he says to his wife in the letter dearest Connie, that by next Christmas we shall be together again, and this war, that will be a terrible memory and nothing else. That means everything would be resolved. And so he says that all the soldiers, they want peace, and so there will not be any more war, and I'm sure of it. Your loving Jim. My dear students, I have explained you everything. I hope you have understood well. If you like it, share it and enjoy it.